The most common consumers of real estate news has to be real estate agents and professionals, yet the industry constantly puts down real estate agents and realtors and professionals in the business. Why is that? We're going to look at that a little bit. I'm going to share a couple examples. It's just baffling to me. I'm Bill Gross. This is my weekly real estate market update. Before we get into the news, let's take a look at the statistics to know where the market is. Important to give us a context. In every economy, there's two parts. There's demand and supply. Demand in real estate primarily is determined by interest rates and supply by the number of houses in the market. Now, interest rates in the mortgage industry today are still pretty flat. This week we closed down to about 7.03%, a little below last week's 7.09%. Come the fat middle of where they've been for the last year, and a good rate to continue the market where it is, though. We all think that if we can reduce inflation, those rates can come down and cause more demand. So we'll see how that goes in the upcoming future. On the supply side, determined by how many homes are for sale, that number has also been at really historic lows. You can see here, other than the pandemic period, this low would be the lowest of all time. And so we have low inventory, which means we're not building enough houses, and we can't really set records for sales if we don't have enough houses for sale. The good side, though, is as long as there's not enough houses or too many, prices can't drop. So we're not going to have any drop in real estate values. That's unlikely. And it wouldn't take much to cause real estate prices to really jump up tremendously, though in the last year they went up about 4%, a little above inflation. So overall, inventory is pretty healthy on the real estate market and should allow a room for growth if the economy can move in the right direction. Now, real estate is local. In Los Angeles, we have what I call a slight seller's market. Altos Research has it at a 36, and you can see that number has come down from about 38 or 39 in midsummer down to where it is now 36. They analyze all the different factors and summarize them in one number. And I would agree, overall, the market is still somewhat benefiting sellers. It's still a slight seller's market, though not quite as intense as it was last year in the summertime. Now let's take a look at the real estate industry and how the news is always, I think, against real estate agents. I don't understand why it is. One example is Housing Wire. Here's a perfect example. They have an article, 30 must have real estate text messages scripts to convert leads and close deals. Now, let's set aside the fact it's illegal to send texts to people who you don't have their numbers, right? Because if you read through these 30, a lot of them are cold call texting, which we call spam, which are technically illegal. They're encouraging. But when you read this, it talks about unlock the power of effective communication. So what they're saying is effective communication is not really asking questions or listening to the customer. Effective communication is picking one of these 30 must-have scripts, and that will give you effective communication with your customers and will nurture leads and build strong connections. Imagine if you put this in context of, say, of marriage, 30 must-have texts to make your wife love you. Imagine how you build your relationship by picking one of these stupid texts as a way to communicate with your wife or spouse or significant other. This is just complete nonsense. Now, we know this lady is probably some sort of advertiser and it's just promoting her coaching program, or it's just some desperate attempt to fill space in the news organization's manual, and they take real estate agents for being stupid. Another example of this, how stupid are real estate agents to buy this kind of nonsense? Here's an article in MarketWatch, which used to be a pretty legitimate news source. Now, this is behind their paywall, so be careful. The simple mind trick that real estate mogul Ryan Serhant used to create his empire. Now, mogul, he built a real estate sales company. Normally, mogul you contact somebody who built massive wealth and has real estate inventory that they own, rather than a company doing a lot of sales. But setting aside, he's a great real estate salesperson. He's built a great business. But the simple mind trick that he built, when you read the article, the part that's before the paywall, it says, the star says it's all about mindset. He doesn't say that. I've read his books. I've watched his videos. He works every day. He's like up at like 5 in the morning. He works out. Then he's looking at properties, driving properties, meeting customers on cell phone, nonstop. It's a lot more than mindset. He's a hard worker. He is an expert in his inventory. He knows the market. And then behind the paywall here, it starts to say that that the mindset is something that he changed at 40 years old, meaning he built this empire and then he developed this mindset trick. This isn't what he used to build his mindset. This is what clickbait market watch is going to promote to make you think all I need to do is change my mindset. This little simple trick and I'll be like Ryan Serhant. No, here's what I'll tell you. If you can be like my Ryan Serhant, work hard every single day, out hustle your competition, and then you can be the best realtor in your market. And that's really what Ryan Serhant teaches. I've read both of his books. I've seen his videos. It's not a mindset trick at all. Now, for the last year or so, you've had this this praise of this National Association of Realtor lawsuit designed to destroy the real estate industry and really turn realtors into rubble at the feet of Facebook, Google, and Zillow, and Redfin. And one of the arguments made by pundits in the news industry, which always surprised me, was that real estate commissions were too high. Now, the fact is most real estate agents don't make that much money. They make less than other industries for sure. And these pundits would say, well, yeah, but commission rates are lower in these other countries. Not telling you that in those countries, customers do more of the work. You have to hire attorneys to do a lot of the work. Home ownership rates are lower in these other countries. But here we have, after this lawsuit has now been in effect for months, and we spent millions of dollars and tens of thousands of hours to comply with this lawsuit. Other than attorneys getting rich, what's the result? Well, one result we know is that real estate commissions haven't changed one bit. In fact, here's a study from Mike Delpret, who's a professor of real estate in Colorado. And he shows that ever since the settlement was announced, real estate commissions have stayed about the same. All of that excitement, nonsense, preparation, paperwork, stress. And the only thing that's happened is that attorneys made hundreds of millions of dollars and everybody else wasted their time, effort, and energy. So that's what the industry thinks of real estate agents. Really, on one hand, we're stupid enough to use texts, we're dumb enough to chase after mindset tricks, and then our commissions aren't worthy of the hard work we do. They're just some result of some law, and if the attorneys can get involved, they can fix that. In fact, they can't. And so I'd love to see the article that says, the attorneys were wrong, they wasted your money and time. In reality, apparently, real estate agents are worth every penny of their commission. Continuing in the real estate news, Redfin is really one of the purveyors, I think, of false information. Always talks about when the percentage of homes bought by investors goes up or down and makes it as though it's some big calamity. And the latest article they had was investor home purchases plateau after a pandemic era roller coaster ride. Now, it's true that during the pandemic, like every business, there were dramatic changes. And you take a look at the graph and how the percentage of homes bought by investors jumped way up and then jumped down, and now is about the same as it's been, almost the average, over the last 24 years. And this is the percentage change, which exaggerates the number. If you have the number of homes, you look at it, yes, it jumped up during the pandemic period, but it's returned, and even this graph is somewhat misleading, but here we are, we see the numbers about the fat middle of where we've been since 2014 back to where we were about 2002. So all this talk about investors buying up the whole market and the economy being a renter economy turns out to be exaggerated by Redfin and their echo chamber. Now, what's not exaggerated is the destruction of value in real estate in Los Angeles market. Here's an article in The Real Deal about the Santa Monica Place, one of the premier shopping centers in Los Angeles, in Santa Monica, how it's gone down by $255 million. The loans are in default. And this is a result of the overall difficulty of the retail market, exaggerated by when you have homeless and criminality basically supported in Los Angeles and Los Angeles County. When you kind of pay criminals to come here and then don't put them in jail, you let them out routinely and don't arrest them, what happens? Well, among other things, retail businesses stop being successful. People like me stop going to retail stores. I don't want to be robbed. I don't want to have to deal with homeless people on these centers. And as a result, these retail centers that were very high priced are now going out of business. Very sad. Santa Monica Place being one of them. Another example, and that's at the high end of the market. An example at the low end of the market is Big Lots. Big Lots declared bankruptcy last year, closed 550 stores, and then recently announced closing more stores, 19 stores, including stores in Bakersfield, Los Angeles, Murrieta, Redondo Beach, and Tulare here in California. as well as states around the country. So you have the high-end stores that are suffering, and you have the low-end stores that are suffering. And particularly, this is a self-inflicted wound in California because we're allowing these criminals to rob and as a result drive away business and make it more expensive for retailers that can't afford these spaces. Now, where's the bright spot of real estate? Well, one of the groups of people who continue to be able to buy real estate is the government. And I guess if you think that's good news, maybe that's good news. Personally, I think it's a problem that the only people who can afford to buy real estate is the government. Here we have an article. I just went past my free articles. UCLA Medical just bought a $55 million medical facility in El Segundo. UCLA is part of the state, obviously, University of California. And so rather than a private enterprise buying a facility, rather than a group of doctors or a business buying it, the state buys it. And well, I guess if you're a UCLA fan, it might sound good, but at some point, the government can't own everything. That's what socialism is. At some point, the taxpayers have to make money on things. And it just seems like more and more I see UCLA being the successful bidder and more real estate throughout Southern California, in the LA area in particular, and overall, less and less is going to private enterprise. And in the long run, that's not going to be good. One thing making it hard for private enterprise is our sanctuary city policies. Here in Los Angeles, we didn't just support sanctuary cities, we voted unanimously. Every single city council member has voted to continue and increase our importing of illegal immigrants from around the world and paying for them. And you go, well, what could possibly go wrong with that? Well, we estimate in California out of our $35 million person population, about 2.7 million illegal immigrants estimated in California. This article goes on to explain, actually, it's a different article. Let me go on to the next one. This one is from the Center Square, which is a great article. And it talks about how in California, which is so bankrupt, we're borrowing money from the federal government to pay lawsuits we owe. We're borrowing, we got $80 million we had to borrow from the federal government just to pay court-ordered lawsuits. We got $22 million from FEMA to pay for migrants. But they estimated that the 2.7 million immigrants in California cost us $15 billion a year. And as a California resident, you wonder, what could the state do with $15 billion if we weren't using that just for the health care of illegal immigrants? Just for the health care, we're spending $15 billion in California. What could we do? What buildings could we build? What freeways could we build? What railroads could we build? What hospitals could we build? What are things we could do with that money? But instead, we spend $15 billion just on the health care for our illegal immigrant population. Another case of real estate law in California being difficult. In the past, I talked about how the Sacramento law was coming down on the cities of Huntington Beach, Norwalk, Beverly Hills. In Los Angeles, which is now being forced to build more affordable housing, our city is being forced to build 255,000 units in the city. That's a huge amount. And so there's not enough places to build that people want to live. And so what the city is doing is going to force high-rise apartments in neighborhoods that otherwise have single-family homes. And of course, when they have city council meetings, people speak and don't like that. So here you have even the LA Times reporting that residents come and spoke up against building high-rise affordable housing, basically putting in illegal immigrants and low-income people and so on in neighborhoods that otherwise people are buying single-family homes that are worth $1 million and up. And but the state law is requiring California to build 255,000 of these units. So what's the city going to do? Well, one of the things the city's come up with is they're going to let nonprofit organizations who buy houses turn them into apartment buildings. So here you have this quote. It sounds great. This resident who's a leader in a religious organization, they're going to build 78 units in the neighborhood. A religious organization that has never built a house before is going to build 78 units of low-income affordable housing in a neighborhood that otherwise are single-family homes. What could possibly go wrong with that? As if it's easy to build affordable housing, as if it's, private enterprise can't do that. Now you're gonna have people with no experience in business and no capital who are gonna start building things in other people's neighborhoods. Prescription for disaster, mark my words on that one. Other states are getting the message though. This past election season, we saw numerous states pass laws that made squatters the equivalent of stealing houses. If you think about somebody moving in your home and basically stealing the use of your home that you could otherwise rent for thousands of dollars a month, or your property taxes and insurance, not to mention destroying the home. And so other states, Wyoming passed a law that made it a felony, punishable for up to 10 years and a $10,000 fine. Well, that sounds reasonable. If you steal somebody's money, it's a felony at that amount. If you steal somebody's $500,000 bank account, you would go to prison and face fines and periods of time. But somehow in cities like Los Angeles, we worship squatters rather than punish them. And other states also, in New York, Florida, and Georgia, passed laws making it more difficult for criminals to get away with squatting in property. Yet in California, we make it easier and easier for squatters to steal people's homes from lawful taxpayers. And we overlook the fact they're really stealing the home. They're not just living there. So all that's a mixed bag in Los Angeles. I think we continue to move into a direction of heavy-handed government regulations limiting the building of housing and also making it more expensive to own housing here in California, whereas nationally, things seem to be moving in a positive direction. What do you see? What do you think? Put your comments down below. I'd love to get your opinion. I'm at Bill Goes Probate on social media. My phone number and email are down below as well. Give me a call if I can help. And as always, make today your best day ever. Thanks so much.